Hey guys, I'm Junior here, aka Mustached. I'm here to review the movie Reminiscence. If you end up enjoying this review, then please consider joining my Patreon page. Also consider subscribing. Alright, now that the shilling is out of the way, let's get into this movie review. So, before I get into the plot and story, I thought I'd share an interesting phenomena that I came across when coming across this movie. I saw two reviews. One was a 10-minute short review and the other was another short review. Both of them, from what I could tell, both mentioned very similar topics. That being the three things that they mentioned, both of them, being Inception, comparatively, Blade Runner, comparatively, and that the story and structure of the story has a bit too much going on. So I'm here to deconstruct or prove that by going over the story, being as objective as possible, and we'll see where we actually land when we actually take our time with going over the details that happen in the movie. So my current predicament is to do that. So let's get into it. So when the movie opens up, it is made pretty clear from the opening that we are opening in a fantasy-like world, as most of the world is taken over by water, and that everything that is above that remains is used, and boats have become the main source of transportation. So, the movie already begins with some bit about world building, and for what it's worth, I think that there's some uniqueness to that. A world that is perhaps primarily built off of water. I believe one person mentioned Water World as a movie. I think I've seen that movie like way long ago. Anyway, but we follow Hugh Jackman, who plays Nick. And the movie begins with his narration. Now, the narration apparently is where people caught on to this mentioning Blade Runner thing. And I find that odd since there are a few movies that, have narration. So I'm not sure why the reviews I've seen inherently chose Blade Runner as the example, but that is the only thing I can think of, is that they thought of Blade Runner, and then everyone else who saw their reviews said, hey, Blade Runner is relevant, so let me put that in the review. So that's my theory. So anyways, he picks up a queen card, so he's picking it up the water, and we see him meet up with this man named Hank as he works at this sort of memory-based projection area. And he works with his partner, whose name is somewhere in my notes, I think. I don't know. No, her name, I got her last name, it's Watts. Anyway, so they work as, again, playing memories, and the narration supports this as he talks about how people come in to retreat to their memories as the precursor to this, as the narration also tells us that there was a war, and that this war between the areas within the water region was a big deal. So this movie has a lot going on, so the narration and what it's typically used for is to help build up in a speedy exposition type way what is happening. It is telling us what the world is like. I think that's what narration and exposition should do together, if anything, is tell us in a speedy way, what is going to help us figure out this different type of universe or world. So I don't personally have an issue with the narration. even though others have, apparently. Um, so, anyways, uh, he talks about in his narration that, again, that the memories are an addiction. So, as him and Watts are about to close up, a strange woman appears, arriving very late. And he seems to have a very love at first sight type of look to him, as she claims to have lost her keys or something, lost something. So they give her the treatment. They follow her memories. Her name is May. And they see that she sings a little song as he sort of starts to get a little bit ahead of her memories, the initial ones that they needed. So he looks over to his notebook where we see a little bit more into the war that went on, that is prevalent throughout, and he takes a drink. So after the fact, he goes to another side job because, living where they live and in the environment that they do, gotta have more than one job. So he's in a case about a potential murderer. And they go to an area, after he goes to an area called the Sunken Costs. So even the areas within the world have their own unique names, and characters even have their own unique names, either referring to something with water or, something or rather. So he goes to May, who had left her earrings in the building, so he went to grab them and return them. And after the fact, he decides to go out on a date with her. So they go on a date. So this seems to be following a pretty basic romantic story so far. However, after their night of passionate sex, he wakes up alone very briefly and then joins her on the roof. And they have a moment about what they're talking about, stuff. I forgot what exactly they were talking about. They were talking about like fairy tales, about how fairy tales don't have a happy ending, or most don't, or whatever. Something Hugh Jackman says. Anyway, so we recontextualize this as he wakes up, and it was his dream. So apparently he's been doing this for months, reliving this memories. So we didn't know that this whole thing with May, these are all memories, his memories that he's been playing with. So there's a little bit of untrusty narration going on here, at least at the beginning. And again, what is reality? What is the flashback? So there's a little bit of that going on, at the little bit of the beginning there. And so the two of them, Nick and Watts, talk about memories, what should be forgotten and what should be maintained. And the movie consistently combats these two against each other. It is one of their diverging paths. He believes that people have the right to, look to their memories to remember everything, and she, through the pain, because she has more painful memories, believes that letting those ones go are necessary to move on. And it's an interesting dichotomy between the two characters, and it really sets up what happens throughout the entire movie. So, pretty strong so far, and we're only getting into the, middle stuff here. So anyways, he puts himself back under this memory, and he, after waking up, he finds an earring from May, one of the ones dropped into the water. So now he's getting really curious as to where she currently is. As they pertain back to work, they find another case and meet up with some guy named Joe. Now, this guy also conveniently has a memory that is established with May, so Nick becomes obsessed with it, following her instead of focusing on what the police people want. And he starts to discover that May had a lot more going on than she initially let on, being involved in drugs and so on and so forth. So, as the movie progresses, as he becomes more suspicious, he becomes more obsessed, but now wanting to more know the truth rather than just being simply someone who is in love. So he heads out, and we see some more meetups between Nick and this other guy named Lorenzo. He was one of the head honchos within the memory, and as such, he is pressed for information. Nick is almost, he's attacked within this area. He left the initial area to go to this Lorenzo guy, and he's put into the water. And he nearly drowns, but his partner comes in because he was saying, how he was going to leave. And she came in. And this movie, as long as the other movie I'll be removing, rather in contention with this, both of them seem to have a weird way of handling gun physics. That being when someone gets shot, they get thrown across a room. This happens in both this movie and the other movie that I'll be reviewing called The Protege. So, bizarre, but I figure I mentioned that at least. So anyways, Nick is fighting with this other guy when he's let out, and his partner Watts is trying to handle Lorenzo. So, after dealing with at least one of the two problems, or both of them eventually, killing them out slowly, again, we get a little bit more about more of the discussion about the reasons we choose to forget things and what we should hold on to. Something that this movie continuously brings up throughout the movie. And thus we see Nick talking with May. Both of them are talking about songs, and as she is a singer, as I neglected to mention, but it does come up very importantly. And he's again doing the whole memory thing with her, so he's trying to piece together all this information. And we see through, because now Watts is suspicious because she blurted out that she knew some information about May. So, Nick persists that she share her memories, so now he knows that she knows, that Watts knows, that May was on the big drug that they build up in this world. So, he surpasses that point and figures out that May went in to get to the vault access. And she did that through learning his song. Apparently that was the code, his song, him humming it. So they go to another individual where they gather a new named Elsa. One of the previous members of this memory business. And trying to gather her location, they find some other woman and Nick Solo gives a chase. However, we learn through their memories that apparently, at least through her perspective, that May grabbed a kid. And it sounds, again, very suspicious. It makes her look very sketch. So now Nick is even more prompted to learn the truth. However, in the process of this, he gets jumped when he gets into a building. And we see from various time manipulations, the memories, and the current timeline that this dirty cop named Cyrus, I know there's quite a few characters to keep track of, is a dirty cop who kept in on this whole situation. We see him in the background earlier, so it gives us little clues and hints as to what is going on, and we follow these characters to get to these other characters. It's all leading up to this puzzle about who this May person was, what she did, so it's all in connection. It's all rooting us back to the main plot. Anyways, so he gathers a little information, then proceeds to go to the rich area, which has a very different outlook from the rest of the area. It's completely without water for the most part, and through his narration we get his perspective about how he thinks that they are rats, and the woman there seems to be in a state of that she has been through the memory situation so many times is that she is stuck in there unless she can be broken out of by means of putting her in front of a mirror, I guess that's the way that they put it. As he is reprimanded, Nick is, for his actions, he is placed on the ground. Two guards have him at the gunpoint, and they are about to shoot him, but they see his one of his tattoos, and they notice that he is served through the tattoo. So again, this is world building without spelling it out, and it's done through just action, just a character deciding not to kill. At first I thought it was a little bit too convenient, but I thought about it some more, and I thought, it's showing us that, again, how important this war was, what it means to have served. Anyway, I even wrote in my notes initially, again, when I first put my notes, I put that he was super lucky, but I thought about it some more. He finds, sorry for the blank, anyways, Nick finds Cyrus again, and he's given chase because he's the main lead in this case that can lead him back to May, and they fight for a bit, and he proceeds to knock him out into the water, and through through rather convenience, I suppose, or even inconvenience a little bit, he finds himself trapped in a piano thing. So Nick goes into the water to save him, and then this asshole, this dirty cop, proceeds to kick him up and save himself first. Nick is down there for a while, and I noticed that some other reviewer also mentioned this in their review, how he was down there in the water for a while, which I guess actually could technically also fall under just, either that is plot armor, or, because it never tells us this, that people would have just gotten naturally accustomed to breathing underwater for a longer period of time. I mean, I guess that would technically make sense. And again, that's just me coming up with the immediate, that would be my first impression about, like, what would people do in this world? Well, since a majority of it is underwater, just in case, you learn how to breathe underwater longer. I don't know. Again, that just seems like something that this world would just have, and it kind of fits this world. I'm guessing, like that's where I'm going with this. Is what I'm trying to say. Um, anyway, so he injects this Cyrus guy with a lethal sleep injection, which he always brings at least one needle with him. We see that prior, and we see it this time as well. Uh, so we see other characters. We see through his memories, Cyrus, because he brings them back, that he's been controlling her, telling her how to break into this memory place, told her what to steal, how to steal it, gave her the whole rundown, and we learned the final truth is that when we initially learned that May had took the kid, that was technically true. However, she got on a boat to save him, and May and Nick kind of it clicked for him. Goes, oh, you saw her again. So he proceeds to drag it a little bit further to the point where she had dropped the earring, which we see from her perspective now. And when she reaches her moment with Cyrus, she has a weird moment of heart to heart and overdrugs herself. And the weird moment is that she's talking to Cyrus as if he is Nick. Nick, obviously seeing the memory, steps over where the perspective memory thing is. So it's as if he's right there, living through that memory right in front of her, even though the timeline is, not that. So, Nick, wanting this man to be punished, goes over and asks him to remember his memories about how he got these scars on the right side of his face. So he remembers it, and then he cranks up the memory juice to maximum, and then just leaves him there. So he first goes to this young rich man and essentially gives him the ultimatum to either kill himself or to live through his memories as everything is unfolding because he was involved in this, to just accept that he would be caught. And he couldn't kill himself, and so he just sort of gave up. So Nick, wanting to live out these moments, meets up with Watts, tells her through the things that he has learned throughout this movie to go to her daughter and pretty much to be with her, and tells her everything, the whole story that we have seen so far. And his punishment for punishing this Cyrus guy, his punishment I should put in quotes, is that he would relive his memories for the rest of his years. So we cut to years later, because they have gray hair in the cut. We cut to Watts and his granddaughter, so that is assuming that she patched things up with her daughter. Now she has a granddaughter. They visit Nick, who is still in the bath tube thing, living out his memories, and she leaves saying that, we both chose a different path, but we both chose the path that we thought was correct. Stuff of that nature. Um, and that is essentially when she leaves when the movie ends. So, that is Reminiscence plot. So, I would say, I think this movie has a very noir step-by-step of, you know, we're investigating this person leads us to this person, and as we are connecting these dots, trying to figure out who this May character is, and through all of that, in the background we have the world building, the world being this water-based area primarily, this war that is broken out, and the three areas in which people seem to live: the low class, middle class, and high class. And yeah, in terms of this movie being over cluttered, I don't understand the criticism. Because in that 10-minute review that I saw, they claimed that the movie was cluttered, but they could not point and did not point to a specific thing that would make this movie over cluttered. They didn't give an example. They just stated, "Oh, this movie's over cluttered." So I don't believe that. I don't believe that that assertion is correct whatsoever. Because I am able to to assemble how this movie functions. And there are two layers to this movie. There is the main story, and then there's the world building. And that's, when you actually start to pick apart which things are which, this movie is actually relatively simple and good. I actually do think that this movie got a bit flack for nothing. So yeah, I think that this movie is actually on the higher end of the scale, because it is able to handle its world building effectively, and it is able to, at a point, its world building is able to affect the plot at a point. And I pointed to that point, that being where he's nearly, near death, and the two guys see the tattoo, again, referring to the war, and they let him live. So that is world building affecting the plot. That is not a plot hole anymore. That is not a plot armor. That is world building affecting the plot, which I think is actually super effective. I think that's actually really neat. I think that's actually well written, in fact, I dare say. So I think that this movie got a bad rap, and I don't see why. I don't understand it. I don't understand the criticisms, because I think people thought, they inserted in their heads, oh, Inception, and they immediately said, oh, well, this movie's just bad because it's they just thought of a thing, it's over cluttered or whatever, and I don't see it. I can't point to an example that would make me say that. Again, since we are following a noir type story, we're trying to figure out the puzzle pieces. We're figuring out those puzzle pieces as we meet the characters, as we dive deeper into May's story and who she was, what she did, and who is she becoming. So I don't think that this movie is overly complicated. I think it's simple, but effective instead. Because, again, all you have to do is separate world building from plot and characters, and actually, categorize these things. And once you're able to explain them in a simple way, like I'm trying to do to you, the people watching this review, I think, and I would hope that if you, again, enjoyed this review, definitely give this a check out. I would give this movie, I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. I think that this movie has a lot more going on for it than I think the people who initially reviewed it are giving it credit for. So, I could be wrong. Maybe I missed something. So there's always that possibility. But for now, I'm going to give this movie an 8 out of 10. So, if you ended up enjoying this review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, make sure to check out those links in the description. One to head over to my Discord server, the other to my Patreon page. Any donations are greatly appreciated. Until next time, everyone, bye-bye.